Now to the war in Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin has warned that his country's offensive has barely begun. He's also accused the West of fueling the war, declaring that Western efforts to defeat him would bring tragedy to Ukraine. The Russian president was addressing parliamentary leaders.
We are hearing that they want to defeat us on the battlefield. What can I say? Let them try. We have often heard that the West wants us to fight until the last Ukrainian. It's a tragedy for the Ukrainian people, but it looks like it's heading in that direction. But everybody should know that, largely speaking, we haven't even yet started anything in earnest. At the same time, we don't refuse peace talks, but those who refuse should know that the longer it lasts, the more difficult it will be for them to make a deal with us.
Well, DW correspondent Nick Spicer is in the Ukrainian capital. He told me how those comments from President Putin had been received.
With some indifference, I would say, from officialdom. We only have an advisor to President Zelensky saying that Western powers, which Putin says are at work in Ukraine, are not present in the country. Only Russian soldiers are. I talked to a bunch of people on the streets today. One man said, look, we know what Putin is doing. This is a message to his people, first and foremost, to show that he is powerful, he is in charge, and a message to the West, hands off Ukraine. A woman I spoke to said that what he had to say was diabolical and said he was essentially Satan. And a young man of draft age said to me, all that kind of comment can do is steal the resolve of Ukrainian fighters on the front line.
Right. In the fighting itself, Russia appears to have eased off its Donbass offensive since it took Lysychansk. Why is that?
Well, the Russian High Command has said that it's marked this undertaking an operational pause, and I think the reason why is because they have to reconstitute their tactical battle groups. They were decimated in large part in the attempt to take this city at the start of the war, Phil, as you recall. What they've been doing for the land that they've been able to conquer is basically unleashing huge artillery barrages and then moving in to a scorched earth city of rubble, which the Ukrainians have evacuated for tactical reasons. So they're not really winning hand-to-hand, street-by-street combat. They need to get their troops reorganized into fighting units.
OK, thanks for that, Nick. Stay with us. We're going to take a look at what's happening elsewhere in Ukraine, and then we'll come back to you. Now, Russian forces now dominate the country's eastern and southern cities. Back in June, the occupying administration in Kherson announced that there would be a referendum on joining Russia, though no date has been announced. Many residents won't be around to vote. Tens of thousands are believed to have left for Ukrainian-controlled territories since the city fell. Since it's all but impossible for independent Western journalists to report from there, DW's Nick Connolly got in touch with two locals who told him about life under occupation.
At the beginning, we all thought the occupation would be over in a week. It was only a few months in that we finally understood that the Russians were here to stay.
It looks very similar to what it was in 1985, 84, as I was a little boy here in town. The Russians had their red flags hanging, and it all looked very Soviet.
All my friends have left. The younger generation is gone. Only the pensioners have stayed.
There are so many people in need right now in town. Now these people are not able to get the money that they have on their accounts. Although the elder people are trying to get the Russian help of 10,000 ruble. There's a big queue to get the Russian passport. So I think that they give this 10,000 ruble by condition of getting the Russian passport.
I only heard about the plans for a referendum to join Russia from the Ukrainian press. No one's talking about it here.
It looks all fine and tidy in town and peaceful, except for the military vehicles. But in fact, there are many places where the Russians do the dirty things, and of course you don't hear about that. Many people were kidnapped. I see also many posters on the streets and on Facebook telling that this or that person is missing.
When the Russians came, we were expecting things would be as bad as in Mariupol. We were scared to even look out the window. It was sheer panic. The fact that we can leave the house and buy food seems like a miracle.
Oh, there's an explosive. Oh, just a second. Maybe you'll hear it. You always try to guess if the Russians are shooting or the Ukrainians are covering Russians with shelling.
If nothing changes, I'll also end up leaving. It's only my parents and my grandma that are keeping me here for now.
I'd say everyone is sure that the Ukrainians will liberate. The question is how and when. And we got the idea that it should become a marathon rather than a sprint.
So Nick Connolly talking to a couple of residents of Kherson. Let's go back to Nick Spicer in Kyiv. Nick, Kherson has been under full Russian control for around 4 months, but Ukraine says its forces are advancing on the city. So what else are you hearing?
Well, there's what the Ukrainian forces are doing, Phil, and I think what is also interesting is what the partisans are doing to transform the marathon that man talked about into a shorter race. They've been blowing up railway lines, they've been blowing up trains carrying ammunition, doing all kinds of things to weaken the Russian war effort behind the lines. Now, on the other side of the lines, what the actual Ukrainian army is doing is trying to take territory, trying to take villages, engaging in shelling without hitting civilian areas, and continuing the war effort, not just to prevent Russia from getting that land bridge they want to get all the way across to Romania, but also just to put pressure on them in the south in order to divert their resources from Luhansk. So they have to fight a two-front war, which is, of course, always difficult. So it's about Kherson, but it's about the larger war effort as a whole, Phil.
All right, thank you for that. Nick Spicer in Kyiv.